All right, so we've answered the bell ringer question. Now we're on number 3. Number 3 says, what is temperature? And then you'll type your answer in the box. So hopefully you remember our notes, and temperature is the measurement of how fast particles are moving. So you'll type in your own words the measurement of how fast a particle is moving. So the next question is, what is conduction? Hopefully you know what conduction is. And conduction is the transfer of heat when two substances are in direct contact. So you can put this in your own words as long as you know that there's direct contact or touching involved with conduction. Number 5, what is convection? And convection is the transfer of heat caused by the rising of warm substances and the falling of cooler substances. So you can type that in there in your own words as long as you know that it's the rising of cool, warm things and the sinking of, I said that backwards. It's the rising of hot things, the sinking of cold things. Okay, we're looking for circular currents there for convection. Okay. Next, we have what is radiation. Radiation is the transfer of heat energy by movement of waves, not touching. So anything along those lines in your own words, just make sure you do a good job there. Number 7 says, is the following an example of conduction, convection, or radiation? And here we have macaroni rising and falling in boiling water. That is an example of convection, because if it's in boiling water, we've got circular currents in there, and that is exactly what convection is. Feeling the warmth of a fire. You don't have to touch the fire to feel the warmth, right? No, hopefully you don't ever touch fire because you'll get burned. But if you can feel the warmth from the fire, that is radiation. Next, we have heat given off from a light bulb. Same way as with a fire, you don't have to touch the heat from a light bulb. You can just hold your hand relatively close to it and feel that warmth. And if you're not touching and you can feel the heat, that is radiation. Next, we've got touching a hot stove. So, is that conduction, convection, or radiation? That is convection, and it gives it away right there where it says touching, and conduction is all about the direct contact or touching. So that's conduction. Number 11, cooking popcorn in a hot air popper. If you've never seen one of those before, they blow hot air through the bottom, and your popcorn kernels fluff around and get hot until they pop. That is convection. If you've never seen it before, you can Google it and watch a video of a hot air popcorn popper. They're kind of cool. Next, we've got a metal spoon in hot soup. So if it's in the soup, it's touching the soup. That is conduction. Ironing a shirt. Also conduction, because if you're ironing something, it has to be touching the clothing that you're ironing. Number 14 says the sun heating Earth's atmosphere. That is radiation. The sun does not have to touch Earth to warm it. And because it's not touching, that is radiation. A hot air balloon rising into the sky. We've talked about this one before. This is my favorite form of heat transfer. That is convection. Roasting a marshmallow over a flame. So if you're one of those children that put your marshmallow right in the fire and you touch the flames with it, that's not what this is asking. This is roasting it over a flame, not touching. So that's going to be radiation because it's not touching. Number 17, chocolate melting in your hands. That is conduction because if it's in your hands, it's touching your hands. Number 18, so we're looking at the picture here with the pot and the boiling water. In this, or which part of this picture would be a good example of convection? So is it the flames touching the bottom of the pot, the circular movement of the water, or if we held our hands close to the sides of the pot and felt the heat? The circular movements of the water is going to be the good example of convection, because that's what convection is. Which part in this picture would be a good example of conduction? So looking at this picture right here, the flames touching the bottom of the pot. If they're touching the pot, that is conduction. So that would be your answer. Which part of this picture would be a good example of radiation? So looking at the picture right here, it doesn't show any hands, but what if we put our hands close to the side of the pot, just close enough to feel the heat? We're not going to touch the pot. We're just close enough that we can feel that heat. That is a good example of radiation. I hope you enjoyed this lesson right here and that helped you understand a little bit more about heat transfer. If you have any questions, make sure you ask them in the questions channel or send me an email. Y'all are amazing, and we will see you tomorrow.